Everybody. Welcome to Rebuilding Hollers, come hell or high waters. My name is Stephanie Johnson, and I am your host for the evening. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to share with you what has been happening here in Western North Carolina, what we have been dealing with in the aftermath of the storm that came to destroy us. Um, this is my first podcast. I'm so excited to be here. I have notes. So if I get messed up, just know I have notes. We have Russ in the background. He's going to help me keep going on. For all of my new friends, I would like to start by sharing my story with you. So I've been telling a lot of other people's stories about rebuilding hollers and how everything began. And so that's what we're going to do tonight is we're going to tell the story of what I experienced and just what's been happening here. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button to all of our channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Kick. And if you have any questions during the podcast, you can type hashtag rebuilding, and my friend Russ, that's handling the background, will post your question. Thank you so much, Russ. I cannot do any of this without him. I'm so excited and a little nervous. This is a little different than what I'm used to with the Facebook lives. That was just my camera and me, and I was just winging it, and now we have a little bit more of a script. So I'm most excited about that. Last night I got to do a test run with my friend Pete with the Eden Army. He was fantastic, so that was very cool. But now it's just me, and I'm by myself, and we're just gonna go for it. So thank you all again so much for joining me. I want to tell you a little bit about how we got started, how everything happened. So we're going to step back in time a little bit to 8 months ago. This was a normal fall back September 27th, 8 months ago. It was a very normal day, very normal fall. Before the storm, we had 2 days of rain. So it had rained and rained steady for 2 days before the storm hit. And during those 2 days, our rivers were already at capacity. So they're at capacity, and pushing buttons here. So the morning of the storm, my husband and I wake him up, and I told him at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I said, "This is getting pretty serious. The winds we had over 100-mile-an-hour winds coming through the mountains. We had over 30 inches of rainfall that morning." So I woke him up and I said, "I think you need to get up. I think you need to be ready. We may need to leave because we live on the side of a mountain." So we weren't exactly sure how everything was going to go. So I have a couple pictures here to show you our driveway. When we walked down our driveway, which is about a mile, this is what we saw. We were completely trapped in our driveway and could not get out. When we looked to the left, you could see all the flooding down below us. That was crazy. This is at our shared driveway. So it's a one-lane road into our holler. And this is what it looked like after we climbed up and over and under and all the things. This is what we saw when we got down there. So we had a small, tiny creek that had jumped the banks of the creek. You can see that to the right, and that's actually our driveway to the left. And the rain had produced an insane amount of ruts. I've never seen so much water in my life. In such a small holler. This was such a small creek, and you can see how the water just came right out of the creek bank and into our road. This was the most devastating part. This is our road. This is a road in and out. There are probably 20 houses that were beyond us. So once we got out of our driveway, this is what we had to get through to continue getting out of our holler. And those ruts were actually so huge that as we were cutting logs and cutting the trees to get out, we had to put the tree logs into those ruts so that we could build the road back up. And get out of the holler. So that was crazy. Here's my husband Tyler cutting our way out. We cut for 3 days to get out of our neighborhood, just like mountain folk did all across all across the region. They were, oh, Russ, I'm gonna need your help. Nope, I found it. Sorry, I'm learning all the buttons, y'all. Thanks for being patient with me. So all across the community, our neighbors, that's who cut their way out. Everybody cut their way out. If people have heavy equipment, they got their heavy equipment out, and they were fixing roads. After we got the logs in the road, our incredible neighbor, Mr. Fox, he came up with his skid steer and backfilled and pulled dirt, anything to get into the rut so that we could get out. Because even though I drive a H2, it still was not big enough to get us out of after what that creek did. Of course, we were fortunate. So many people completely lost bridges. Later in future podcasts, you're going to hear from community members that were trapped, that had to take helicopters to get out. So our situation definitely wasn't as intense as a lot of my neighbors, but it was still pretty crazy. So that is how what our driveway looked like, what it looked like in our neck of the woods to be able to get out of our shared driveway and things like that. So when we finally got out of the community here in Yancey County, we were not expecting the devastation. So many people ask, well, did you know? Did you know what had happened? We had no idea what had happened throughout our community. We had talked to some neighbors, but you have to remember, we had no cell service. We had no internet service. We had no power. So there was no way to know what was going on, out in the community. And when we finally got out into the community, this is what we saw. Everything was cash only. There was nobody had, none of the gas stations had power. And so if you didn't have cash, then you couldn't buy anything. And the gas stations throughout the community, I don't know that they planned it, but it was a staggered opening. So they may open for a couple hours and then they would close because, there was no way in and out of our community. So as folks were coming out of their haulers, they could go to the store and get a few things. But really, that was it. We were first trapped within our hauler, but then we were trapped within our community because there was no way in or out. The roads were covered in trees. Bridges were destroyed. There was just so much devastation here that it was crazy. It was so crazy. So at that first gas station, what changed it all for me and my family is when we got out of that, I walked into a gas station and we had cash. So I was able to buy my items. But behind me, there was a mom that had this, I'll never forget, this big bag of quarters. And I could see the terror in her eyes. I could see how scared she was. And she had this big bag of quarters and she was buying junk food for her children because that's all they had. That's all that was there. And something in me just snapped. And I knew that was not going to be okay for my community. I knew then at that very moment that my neighbors were in serious trouble. And so we left that gas station and went on to town because we had heard that on the square in Burnsville that there was limited cell service. So we got to town and it was it was so somber and so devastating. I remember thinking, get me out of here. I can't. It was just so overwhelming how sad people were and they were holding their phones just trying to get a little bit of signal. And so I went farther away than where everybody was and I was able to get signal. And the first call I made was to my brother. And I told him, I'm alive. We're alive. We're okay. It was a very emotional call. And he said, well, it's time to come home, Steph. And I said, I am home and I'm going to need you to bring me some food because, my neighborhood is not, my neighbors are not okay. And he said, okay, I'll get to working on it. And he did. He went right away and got a trailer and my family and friends started loading it up. And next I was able to make a Facebook Live, which has since disappeared because they're only around for 30 days. And so in that Facebook Live, I let everybody know that we were alive, but totally devastated that, we had only just left our hauler and come to gas station town. So we didn't go down any side roads. But in town, I was hearing the rumblings that South Toe was cut off and that, Green Mountain was gone, and all these places were gone, and it was so overwhelming. And so in the Facebook Live, I told everybody, we're not okay here. Please come. Please bring food. We're in big trouble. And so the next day is when my husband, my daughter, and I went to Rose's parking lot. That was actually, I was standing right at the town center and looking across the street, and there was this big parking lot that was completely empty, and you could see it from the highway. And I thought, well, that's where we're going to go. So we went to Rose's parking lot, and we started. One of my friends down from Cabarrus County brought a trailer of food, and that was on October the 1st. And this is what that looked like. So October the 1st, we started handing out food for the neighbors that could get to us. It would be 31 days that we would hand out food before the last person said, this is my first day out. I was so thankful when we received this first load of water, because so many people didn't have water. We didn't have, the town water was completely destroyed. Our town was without water. I think it was 17 days before town water was restored, but so many people did not have water. They did not have food, and they were just so desperate for anything. So this is the day that Rose's parking lot was born, and that was a pretty crazy experience. For the next 7 weeks, we sat at Rose's parking lot. Well, we didn't sit. There was never really any sitting involved, and we would hand out food all day until it was gone, and then we would pack up and come back and start it all over again. And on day 3, the Starlink arrived, and I was so thankful that the Starlink came in, because then I was able to start making videos. And so that's when our Facebook Lives really took off, and we were able to start letting people know we're here. If you see the Hummer, we're here. We have food. We have whatever you need to get you get food, water, drinks, supplies, just anything that you need. That's how that happened. That was crazy. This next slide is one of our more devastating things that happened in Rose's parking lot. So, it's been 8 months. It's been a long time. So a lot of people forget, but Rose's parking lot was where the helicopter roto wash happened. And there's a lot of speculation on what happened there, who did it, why they did it, things like that. But for us, it was a turning point in our commitment to help our community, because for me personally, I felt like it wasn't an accident. I felt like it was intentional, because of the way they tried to land and the way that happened. So I have you a clip of what happened with the helicopter. And, we had a lot of helicopters going a lot that week. I think it was for 4 or 5 days. So many helicopters came and helped us. So many private helicopters and private people had came, and they were like Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell, Greg Biffle. They were some of the first people to come into our communities that were trapped and couldn't get in and out. And so the private helicopters were incredible on helping us come and get to us and bring supplies into the communities that we couldn't get to and they couldn't get to us. So it was wonderful. And then when the helicopter tried to land in the parking lot, when we didn't have a landing zone there, we had a parking lot full of people. We had supplies everywhere. That was really hard. That was really hard to deal with. Scared my kid to death. After that, she didn't come to the parking lot anymore. She wasn't willing to come to the parking lot anymore because she was right there. It almost, if it had kept coming down, it would have come down on her. And so that was very scary for my family, for my kid. Very traumatic. And I don't talk about it often, but since tonight is the night that we are just going to talk about all the things we experienced, we can't talk about Rose's parking lot without talking about the roto wash and the helicopter. And that was just really hard for us, but we made it. That night I was ready to quit. That night I was done. I was like, okay, clearly they don't want us here. But the truth is my community needed me there, and they needed my family there. They needed all the volunteers that come from all over the country to help us. And so the next morning I woke up mad as hell, and I said, yeah, they're not going to stop me. And they didn't. And that was on October the 6th is when that happened. So we kept going, and we did really good from that point on. We didn't have any more issues in the parking lot. We actually went from being able to pack up what was left during the day to there was no more packing it up at night. We had an incredible amount of items in the parking lot, more stuff than you could imagine as far as supplies, diapers and wipes and food. This is fun. We didn't talk about this a lot on the live. So, we didn't have power. We didn't have water. We didn't have phones. We didn't have internet. And we didn't have bathrooms. And we were living in a parking lot. Now, my husband, daughter, and I, we did go home at night. But during the day, this is what we had. So we this is the bathroom. This is our porta john for weeks. And we would set it up at night or set it up during the day and break it down at night. And so what you're seeing here is a nice little porta tent. And in the bucket, we had shavings. We did. We just had shavings. That was on the list. My brother and his wife, Chrissy, brought me a bag of the cedar shavings. And that's what was in the bucket. So we did whatever we had to do in the parking lot to get folks in and keep working. And they came. All of America came to help us. That has been the most amazing part of this entire operation. This is when I knew that God wasn't playing with his people. I knew that he wanted us to have what we needed to keep moving. He knew that for whatever reason, the state and federal government was not doing what they were supposed to be doing. But God sent his people with the supplies that we needed to keep supplying Yancey and Mitchell County with everything that we needed. And I'm so thankful for that. I'll always be so thankful that God touched the hearts of thousands and thousands of people to come and help us and bring us everything that we needed to help our community. So that was pretty incredible. This here's my friend Chris. He came up from Charlotte on the weekends and fed us. Our other friend, he stayed in the parking lot for weeks at a time, cooking meals for us. He all out of his own pocket. Everybody just came. They would come and sleep in the parking lot. They would feed us in the parking lot. I mean, we were there from probably 7 o'clock in the morning every day till about midnight every night, handing out supplies, whatever people needed, we were getting it for them. And on November the 2nd, building materials arrived. And what's incredible about these building materials, and what many of you may or may not know about me, is my background is construction. So in a previous life, I was a commercial contractor. My father was a carpenter, so I grew up in a wood shop. And building materials, that's just second nature to me. The smell of wood all the time. I'll tell my husband, let's go to Lowe's, let's go smell the wood. And so on November 2nd, when the building materials arrived, I think is when I really understood how devastated my neighbors were in their homes. Because for 7 weeks, I did not leave the parking lot. I would go home. I would come to the parking lot. I never went out into the community, mostly because I was so afraid that my heart would break, would shatter, and I would just cease to exist if I saw how bad it was. I knew how bad it was. People told me, and I saw online, but I didn't see it for myself for 7 weeks. But on November 2nd, when these building materials arrived, and they went so fast, our community members were so desperate for these building materials. And I said, God, you want me to get into building materials? And 4 hours later, 100 doors showed up. And that's when I knew that I was not going to be going home and working on my apocalypse crafts. I was going to be staying in a parking lot and handing out the building materials that my community so desperately needed. And that is also when we knew that we wouldn't be a temporary operation. This is the night the doors came in. That was incredible. I'm still in awe that I asked God, and 4 hours later, He sent doors, and these doors have all of them went into homes. The front of people's home, their front door is a door that God sent. At 9 o'clock that night, it was pretty dark. It was late. It was very late. We weren't expecting the shipment, and still it came. So that was pretty crazy. The next thing that happened in November is project number one, who is a friend of mine and was a client of mine before the storm. He came to me and he said, I want to rebuild. And I said, okay, what do we got to do to get you home? And he said, well, the county's telling me I can't rebuild. FEMA's saying my house is condemned, and everybody's telling me no. And so for me, I couldn't be another person to tell him no. So I said, well, if you're brave enough to build, then I'm brave enough to get you whatever you need. You tell me what you need, and I'll get it. And so in November is when we signed up our first project number one. And he started telling me what he needed. It started with a pallet of 2x4s. We got him the 2x4s. And then he needed more 2x4s. So we got him more 2x4s. He needed block. We got him block. Whatever he needed, we just kept getting it for him so that he could start building. And that was significant. I saw a significant change in project number one. He went from a very sad, unsure what to do, broken man. And today he's incredible, but he's home. And that's what all of this, that's the purpose is to rebuild our community, to get people home. But I didn't know it at the time. God knew, but I did not know. And so we kept trying to evolve into what our community needed with the warehouse and basic distribution. So we were in the parking lot for 12 weeks. And then we moved into our, Russ, I think I need a little help here to get my slideshow back up. We evolved into an empty warehouse space. Let's see, Russ is going to help me. I broke it. That's normal. So in our warehouse, we were able to shift the parking lot. So we were no longer in the parking lot because we were fighting the elements here, right? So the storm was in September, and then we had to. Here he goes. Get us reset back up to the warehouse, pretty please, Russ. There it is. There's our warehouse. So we were able to shut down the parking lot and evolve into the warehouse. There's Jeremiah. He ran the warehouse. He organized everything. It's been so incredible. And this warehouse was significant because we were able to evolve into like a kind of like an Amazon cart. So at this point, internet was reestablished in the community, and people were able to go online and tell us what they needed, and we would fill their orders, and they would come and pick that up. And so what we did there is we were running basic supplies out of the front of the warehouse, and then out of the back of the warehouse is where we were running our building materials. And that was so cool. We were able to get so many building materials out and into our community that way. But the truth is, we were squatters. Yeah, we were the whole time. So the property owners knew we were there. They knew we were helping our community, but they were not interested in leasing their space to us. Although I begged and pleaded, God knew what was best. And so on January 14th, actually it was January the 7th, the folks that owned the building that we were in said, okay, you have 2 weeks. You have to leave. We don't want you to be doing this anymore. And for me, I felt very like, well, I know I'm supposed to be doing this. So if God wants me to keep doing it, he'll send me a space. And sure enough, he did. So we got our new office space where we're at now. We moved into this space on January the 14th. And from there, we have been able to evolve to what our community needs even more. We have our office space. We have a distribution space for our supplies. So we have building materials, heat sources, power sources, RV accessories. We have over 300 community members now living in RVs. So we are able to offer them all of those supplies. We have 7 Connex boxes on our 2-acre lot that allows us to store building materials to keep them dry. And then, of course, we have a 2-acre lot. So we're able to get in donations and put them on our lot so that as projects need building materials, if we have them, we're able to send them out. And that is very cool. I very much love how that's been working. So in our new office, we have the most amazing team, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about them. My husband Tyler, he's been working so hard to do all kind of things here at the office. We have Jeremiah, who is our also our construction guru. Like Tyler, he knows all facets of construction and has been significant in helping us get projects put back together. We have Miss Jenny. She's our case manager, and she does fantastic working with community members, understanding their needs, and helping me figure out what we need to do to get them back together. We have Miss Karen. Miss Karen is our office manager, and she helps me manage our website. She helps me manage as donations come in. She gets our shipments sent out, and all around just administrative amazing. And then we have Brandon. Brandon is our yard manager, so he's managing the 2 acres and the 7 connexes. When the big materials come in, he's making sure that we're able to get our projects what we need. He helps load them up. He uses our lull that was sent by the Alabama boys to make sure folks can get their building material. So it's pretty magical how we've been able to evolve from the parking lot to the warehouse now into our own space. Has really been very cool. We are a 501c3 foundation nonprofit. We have a board of directors. Our board of directors includes Cindy Casper, Lisa McCurry, Michelle Sigmund, Jonathan, Jeremiah, Tyler, and myself. So we have a 7-member board, and we meet quarterly to discuss all the things going on. But we actually meet really weekly. We're together a lot. We work very close together to make sure that we're able to help our community members. You know, the main thing that we try to do is listen to what folks need. And then by doing that, we're able to meet their needs. So one thing that I was hearing early on is that so we had like portable showers and laundry here for about a month. I don't know who sent them. I don't know how they got here, and I know all I know is they left right after the election. So about November the 10th, let's say, they all pulled out. All resources pulled out after the election. That's the first thing you need to know. But my community members still did not have showers. They still did not have running water to do laundry. And so when we moved into our new space, upstairs in our space, we have 3 1-bedroom condos. And so we were able to also rent those spaces so that our neighbors would have a place to take a shower, to do their laundry, or to spend the night. So if there's a bad storm and they don't want to be wherever they are in a camper or tent, which we do not have any community members that I'm aware of in tents, but at the time we did, they're able to come here and stay with us. So our respite condos, I feel like, have been very important to our community members because we still have so many neighbors that do not have running water. They do not have anywhere to bathe. And, you know, having running water and being able to do your laundry, that's a basic human need. That's a basic, human right. Like everyone should be able to have running water. So that's very important to us. Another way that we help our community members get supplies is we have an escrow account at Summit Building Supply. So if you've been with me for long, you hear me talk about Summit a lot. I love Summit Building Supply. They are a local lumber yard here in Yancey County. And when I went to them December the 9th, and I said, hey, so I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I need to buy a lot of building materials, but I need to do it in a way that helps my neighbors, that is easy and gentle for my neighbors. And we're raising money to do that. And so I talked to Kim, and she said, well, we could set you up like a contractor's account, and you put money on the account. And when someone, you could write your gift certificate off of your own account, and then we'll email you those invoices as they come in. I said, that's great. Let's try. So on December the 10th is when I wrote my first gift certificate. And that has been incredible. So we started with $5,000 on that escrow account. And since then, we have spent over $235,000 buying brand new building materials for our community members. And that's been amazing. So speaking of how we've raised $235,000, God sent shirts, which this is the coolest story of to me of everything. I mean, there's so many amazing miracle elements that we've dealt with here. But one of the coolest parts was when God sent a print shop that had closed down out of Charlotte. Um, and I thought, what am I going to do with all these shirts? And immediately I felt God was like, you're going to sell them. And so I called one of my friends and I said, can you help me with a logo? I need a cool logo to put on shirts that will share with the world what we're doing and we can fundraise with this. And so she did, my friend Paula. She made us a beautiful logo and we took those shirts and had the logos put on them and we started selling shirts. And that's how it all began. That's how all the fundraising began. See, in the beginning, the first 7 weeks, we never accepted money. It took me 7 weeks to understand that it was more than just distribution. See, I always thought I was going to be going home, that I was just there for a minute to help. I never ever expected 8 months later to be running a nonprofit foundation. I kept thinking somebody that knows what they're doing is going to show up, somebody that knows this is going to come and take over, and I can go home. And nobody came. Nobody came. Our county did open up the Fred's distribution, and I was excited about that. I thought, yeah, okay, the county's going to be taking over distribution. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And then I went to Fred's, and I was like, yep, we're going to be doing this a little while longer because it just wasn't good enough for my community. Not to put my county down, it is very hard to run a massive distribution center. And it was very hard for them. They had a hard time with that. So we kept going. We just kept going with our distribution and evolving how our community needed us to. Um, in December, I met Jim Swain. And Jim Swain is an incredible community member here in Yancey County. He's actually the founder of the Pillars Foundation. And the Pillars Foundation built at Mountain Heritage High School the construction technology program. 20 years ago, he had a vision to build a complex for our children in high school to learn the construction trade. So they basically built like a modular house building shop. I mean, it's this incredible shop here in Yancey County at our high school. And Jim came to me. The instructor, I get ahead of myself. I'm sorry about that. But the instructor, Jeremy Dotz, I knew him, and we had been talking throughout while I was doing basic distribution. He needed a couple things, so I made sure to get those for him. And so when Mr. Swain came and said, they were back in school and they were looking for some projects to work on, he said, "Can we build you some tractor sheds?" And I said, "Well, Mr. Swain, don't y'all build tiny houses?" And he said, "Well, yeah, we've built 18 tiny houses so far in the last 20 years." And I said, "Well, then let's keep building tiny houses." But what happened is because it's a privately funded technology program, they did not have the money to buy the building materials. So I said, "Well, I'm fundraising. I will sponsor to get you the building materials you need. Y'all keep building houses." And so that's how Rebuilding Hollers partnership was born with the Mountain Heritage Construction Technology Program. They have an incredible organization there. I've been so proud of them. And we've really been able to do amazing things there. In September, our first house will be completely done. I'm so excited about that. And that is going to Project 118. So right here in Burnsville is where that house will be delivered. But it has been incredible how that has evolved. We call them the Cougar Carpenters because their mascot is a cougar, and this senior program that is building. So it's 18 seniors that are building these houses for us. So they're hoping to build 2 a year, so that we can keep getting those to the community, to our neighbors, our community members. So I'm very excited about that. That has been a very cool part of our organization. We were so honored to be invited onto Good Morning America. That was a very cool experience. While we were there, 84 Lumber gave us $15,000 worth of material. We have received that material. And what we actually got was we requested We had talked to project number 3 and project number 8 and asked them for their materials list so that all the material that we got from 84 Lumber has went to project 3 and project number 8 so that they can start building their house. So that has been very cool. That's been a very cool thing. Right now, we currently have 490 projects. So, we started with one. Right now, we almost have 500, which is it's a lot. That's a lot for a brand new teeny tiny foundation, but it's going very well. The way we're doing that, or I'll tell you a little bit about my projects. So we have 51 homes on our projects list that were completely destroyed. We have at least 45 that need roofs outside of the 51, right? So there's 51 that need everything. In addition to that, we have over 45 projects that need roofs. Most of the ones that need roofs also need sheetwork repair. All of those also need insulation. We need an insane amount of lumber because not only for homes that we're rebuilding, but also we have over 45 barns that need to be rebuilt. So here in Yancey County, we had over 7,000 structures that were damaged or destroyed. 1,500 of those were homes, and the rest were barns, workshops. We have a very self-sustaining community, and so many of our neighbors lost their tools, they lost their barns, they lost everything. And so as we've organized in a way that would be beneficial to the community and also tried to protect their privacy, that's how we evolved into projects. And that's why you hear me reference everyone as a project number. So that way people have they know their project number and I know their project number, and I can talk to you about their project, but I can still wrap them up in some privacy so that they can build back at their own pace. They don't feel exploited, which we'll get into that later. But there's been a lot of exploitation of my community members here in Yancey County and Mitchell County. And so part of how I've created and built Rebuilding Hollers is a way to support the community without exploiting the community. And that's very important to me. In our needs list, we still have 28 homes that are going to need concrete block. We have 17 properties that are going to need retaining walls. One of our biggest needs is filtration systems. And I'll have a guest on further in our podcast to talk a little bit about what happened here with the water. But what they said to me is that basically so much water fell here, over 30 inches, that the water was hydroelectrically charged. So not only is it coming down from above, but it's also rising up from below. And when it did that, it brought a lot of ancient bacteria with it. And so we've had a lot of community members get very sick. We have a lot of community members that are very sick. And so one of our main focuses have been to provide them with UV filtration systems. And with those filtration systems, we've handed out about 65 so far. They had a very large particle filter on it because now we have a big sediment issue, right? So the particle filters would get the sediment, and then the UV light filters are able to kill that bacteria as it's coming through those lights. So that's been huge. That being able to provide the community members with that has been huge. Unfortunately, these things have become very expensive. In my previous life, as a realtor, we could get them $250, $300, but now a UV light filter is over $550. So we're having a hard time getting the quantity that we need in those filters. But we still work on it. That's a big deal to me, to get everybody clean, safe water. We have to be able to do that. We have 12 properties that need septic repair. So many people, with all the water that came up and came through, a lot of people had springs bust open on their property. So springs that were not there before, they now are there. And a lot of them come under their septic systems. We have one project that has such a huge spring that their septic system is completely, well, it's full of water. That part of their yard is now basically a pond. And so their septic system is going to have to be a pump system, and they have to rebuild. And those systems are like $45,000, $50,000. But it's like a grinding and pump uphill system. So the leach lines would carry that away. So there's so many different elements to what the storm caused and the damage it has left behind for my neighbors. Um, so we have 12 properties on our list right now that need septic repair. We just got one. Actually, they had their final inspection today. FEMA had come a couple weeks ago to inspect their home. And what they had been hoping was, inspect their home, see the damages, and offer them some financial support. But instead, what happened is FEMA came, saw their home, and condemned their house because of the condition of their septic tank. And that was project 415. So we moved project 415 up to an emergency status on our list because we have a major housing shortage here now. And so we needed them home. So we don't want them to leave their home. We need them to be able to stay in their home if at all possible. So we were able to get their septic fixed today. It is done. They passed their final inspection. We're so glad about that. And of course, we have 51 homes that are going to need new septics. So all the properties that were destroyed, most of them are not going back in the same place. Most of them are not able to utilize anything that was left behind, be it their septic systems. A lot of them, we believe after we get their well shocked and get the power back to it, their well may still be okay, but we won't know until we get to each property. But outside of the 51, we still have 14 properties that need new wells installed, and then another 30 that have asked for repair request on their wells. So now their wells are giving them problems. The pumps may be going bad. The silt has got into the wells, so we may need to frack their wells to clean them back up, open them back up. So that's there's just so much. There's so much stuff that we have on our list of people that need help and need support, and that we are doing everything we can to try to get them what they need. And it's significant. We're at almost 500 projects, and that's a lot. That's a whole lot of projects, and still, it's not everybody. Um, and plus businesses. We do support our local businesses as well. So anybody, our primary projects and goals right now include all primary houses. So if folks live here in Yancey County or Mitchell County, they qualify as their primary home, and small businesses. Now, being a small business owner myself, growing up the daughter of a small business owners, I have a very big heart for small businesses. And I know that if we don't get them built back, we'll lose them. And we cannot lose any more businesses. We cannot lose any community members. So we are so happy to support small businesses as well as primary homeowners at this time. My plan is to have everybody, all primary homes and small businesses back together in the next 3 years. So everybody that's on our list, hopefully 2. I would love to have that done in 2 years. But the reality is we're 8 months already into this disaster. And so as we keep moving forward, I would like to be able to get all of our primary residents all fixed, all back home. And then we will get into our secondary homeowners. So, a lot of people think that if someone owns a second home that maybe they're wealthy or rich, but that's really not the case. During COVID, we had so many people come to the mountains and buy real estate. And when they did that, they pulled home equity out of their own home. They maybe took out a mortgage on the home here. And so now, they can't afford to fix it, or they can't, they bought it as an investment, as an Airbnb, and that investment has now failed them completely. And so we're going to have a lot of distressed properties that were secondary homes. Really, we're going to become very aware of those here in the next couple months. And that is going to be a primary goal for me to fix those as well. For like I said, because we don't want them to sit empty. We don't want squatters and folks like that to start moving in. That will be a terrible idea. So they are on the list. They're just not on the current list. But I do plan to be able to assist people with the secondary homes as well. And once we get all of those done, my massive projects that I have my eye on are our campgrounds. So here in Yancey County, we lost one significant campground being Patience Park. That's our South Toe campground. Everybody grew up at that campground. Everybody spent summers there. Everybody floated that river. Everybody took their children to go swim in there. And there had to have been hundreds of RVs that washed away from that campground the night of the storm. And so right now, emergency management is working with SDR and the Army Corps of Engineers, I do believe, to clean that debris up. But the fate and the future of Patience Park is very much unknown because we don't know if the county is going to be able to fix it. We don't know if another organization is going to step in to fix it. But my commitment is to do whatever it takes once I'm done with our primary homeowners and our small businesses, is to make sure we fix that campground because it is most importance to our community. It's most importance to our past. It's been a huge member of our past. I think losing Hoot Owl Holler and that campground will be a significant loss to Yancey County. And it's just one that I'm just not willing to do it. I'm just not willing to give up on that place. So we have a significant list of items that we're committed to fixing. And they are all very, very important to me. So the way that we've been raising money, I told you a little bit about our t-shirt and merch sales. This past weekend, we had our first fundraiser and our first event. That was called Jeep into the Hollers. That was amazing. We had a fantastic turnout. Jeep into the Hollers was a multi-level event. So we had Jeep tours. Really, anyone could go on a tour, but folks could buy a tour ticket for $20. All proceeds of those tour tickets went to our EMS, our fire departments, our sheriff's office, our town police, our emergency management, our rescue squads. We have 11 incredible departments right here in Yancey and Mitchell County that helped us with that event. And so we had the Jeep tour tickets. God sent us a Jeep and we raffled it off. That was donated by the George Shin Foundation. That was very cool. We sold 343 tickets for the Jeep. We raffled off a beautiful pair of diamond earrings. We had a silent auction that did incredible. And we also had our tour tickets. So with those four things, we also had a car show and a Jeep show. And all of those combined, we raised a total of $51,580 at our first event this past weekend. And that was amazing. That was very cool. I had no idea how it was going to go. I had no idea how the community would react with the Jeep tours and folks taking tours throughout the community. But it went very well. Everyone seemed totally okay with it. They were happy. So we're going to be doing that event again in October. I'm most excited about that. We also have received donations. We've been so thankful for the many churches, businesses, and private individuals that have sent us donations. That has been significant in our efforts to rebuild. And all of that money goes to our Summit escrow account to buy building materials. And we also have spent about almost $60,000 paying local contractors to help us put our community members back together. So we don't just buy locally, we spend locally as well. That's been a huge part of this organization. We have recently applied for our first grant. I've never applied for a grant before, but we did apply for a grant through the Emergency Management Fund. We haven't heard back on that yet, but we do hope that we receive that grant. And so that way we will be able to continue moving forward with our projects. It's a reimbursement grant. So we have to spend the money up front and then they will reimburse us. They will not reimburse us for everything we have already spent. We get to spend it again and then they'll reimburse us. But we're excited to see if it works. Basically, whatever it takes to get the funding that we need to continue rebuilding our community, that's what we do. So I'm most excited. So we do have two projects that are finally back in their home. They've been in their home about the last 3 or 4 weeks. That's project number 1 and project number 5. But we have one more that had their final inspection today. So hopefully they start moving in tomorrow. That means we'll have a total of 3 of our 51 back in their houses, and we're most excited about that. Some of our big projects that are getting ready to come out of the ground, which means their footers have been dug. They're ready to pour their foundation and get their building blocks and start building up. So they're getting ready to come out of the ground. That's project number 3, project number 8, project number 9, project number 12, and project number 118 are coming out of the ground as we speak. Probably not this late at night, but during the day they are building. They're on their way out of the ground, and I'm most excited about that. I'm cheering for them all the way. Of course, those are not the only projects we have going, but those are 5 of our full rebuild projects that we're working so hard to support and stand with and get them all the building materials that they need to make sure that they're coming out of the ground. Project number 11 has made significant progress. All of the house is built, their roof is on, their sheetrock has been hung. They've been working on their electrical and their plumbing. I'm so excited and so proud of project number 11. They're doing amazing. And we just have a long way to go. There's 490 projects. And I look forward to sharing these projects with you. I'm most excited about this podcast. I can't believe I've already been talking to you for almost an hour, but we have so much to do here in Yancey and Mitchell County, and I'm excited to share that with you on this new platform. We have some exciting guests that are going to join us. I'm most excited to be the host in the future, so it will not just be me on all of our future podcasts. I will be bringing in local community members that want to share their story. We'll be bringing on our sheriff, who is my hero, Sheriff Shane Hilliard. I feel like because of what he was able to do, it saved our community. And so I'm excited to have him on, and we have some projects that want to come on. Russ says that we have a question, so let's have it, Russ. What is our first question? What's your big ask for things that you need? Miss Karen, you've been such an incredible supporter of our foundation. I'm so thankful for you. Our big ask is going to continue to be tools. It is still tools. We have so many neighbors that lost all of their tools. And so we still need tools, all the way from drills, skill saws, miter boxes, just any kind of electric hand tools is still a very big thing that we need. I know that by providing our community members with these tools, that we can get people back together. So Ashley said, God has used you in so many ways. Thank you for taking care of Burnsville. I love you too, Ashley. It has been hard. This has been hard. When I was looking back through my photos to try to prepare for tonight and decide how to share this, our introductory podcast, it was hard. It was hard looking back and thinking back of all the things that we've went through. As you can maybe tell, I do cry. Most people don't see my tears often. I really try to hold it in. But this has been a very long 8 months. We have had so many obstacles. Our neighbors have had so many obstacles. I've been so disappointed in our state and federal government at every level. I feel they've abandoned us completely. And so for me, I just can't abandon our community. I just can't walk away and let people fight for themselves, because the construction process is a very hard process. And I believe that with my experience in construction and my connections in the community, that I'm thankful to be a benefit to Yancey and Mitchell County and to neighbors that have no idea how to start the building process, how to get everything going. So let's see. All right. We've come a long way. We've talked for an hour. I didn't know how this was going to go. Yeah, Karen, we really did do good with Jeep into the Hollers. It was a phenomenal event. We didn't have as many tour tickets as I thought we would, but I think it was really amazing. We had so many incredible volunteers. Miss Cecilia came. My friend Margie came. Just everybody came and helped us. It was incredible. It was so incredible. We were able to raise a lot of awareness. People had no idea. If you're not going back into the different communities that are so destroyed, you have no idea how bad it is. So it's easy to not go down 19W. It's easy to not go down Pensacola if you don't live there. It's easy not to go back into Poplar or Relief. It's easy to avoid these places. But the reality is our neighbors lived there. Our neighbor's home was there. and our neighbors are devastated. And so I just want to be their biggest fan and their biggest advocate to get them home so that the world doesn't forget about them. And that's how I plan to use this podcast, is to continue sharing our stories. I have some incredible guests that will be joining me next week and our future weeks. We plan to be here every Friday night at 8 o'clock and continue to bring people on that will help us understand what happened here in Western North Carolina and in our journey to rebuild our community. We have a very, very long way to go. And I hope all of y'all enjoyed this. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to tune in next week to meet our first amazing guest. Please don't forget about us. The further we get away from the storm, which now we're 8 months out, it is easy to forget. It's so easy to think Western North Carolina is okay. But I'm here to tell you, we're not okay. Our businesses are not okay. Our neighbors are not okay. And we still need so much help. So please don't forget about us. So as always, thank you so much for loving me. Thank you so very much for loving my community. I'll see y'all later. The hardest part isn't the knowing. It isn't knowing everything that you have to do to get everything back right. The hardest part are the memories. Knowing exactly how it used to look before the storm.